to our 12th episode of the live interview series SSI Live Cosmic Conversations. My name is Mia, and as one of the science communication interns here at Cal Academy, I will be your host for today. In this series, we will interview a different member of our SSI cohort every episode. SSI stands for Summer Systematics Institute, a research experience for undergrads or our youth funded by the National Science Foundation. All of the interns Sophia and I will be interviewing work directly with researchers or curators on research projects on all sorts of topics, from plants to people to herps. Feel free to leave any questions in the chat and we will get to them at the end of the episode. Today, I will be talking to Matthew. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Matthew. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. I study biology at College of Charleston, and I'm studying the Baja coach whip snake with the lovely Ed Myers here at Cal Academy.
Awesome. Let's get right into our first question. Can you tell us about herpetology and what made you interested in it?
Yeah, herpetology is just the study of reptiles and amphibians, which is kind of weird because they're not very evolutionarily related. And how I got into it, I was kind of always into wildlife. My dad just kind of nurtured my passion for nature, but I also got indoctrinated into it because my friend, his grandfather was a herpetologist. So that's how I got into it. It's kind of a small community, and there's some very interesting people in it. So.
You said your grandfather was?
No, my friend's grandfather.
Your friend's grandfather. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he was a herpetologist for like 40 years or something like that at University of Georgia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. And how did he indoctrinate you?
He just started talking about snakes, and he showed me a book that his grandfather wrote, and I got kind of obsessed with it.
That's cool. Did you do any like herpetology before college?
Yeah, I did a lot of population surveys. I helped this friend of mine who indoctrinated me. I helped him track eastern diamondback rattlesnakes, northern pine snakes. I've also did population surveys. I've also done population surveys for several different turtle species. I also would just go out and catch different creatures on my own.
Did you have like a favorite creature that you caught?
Probably the eastern hognose snake, Heterodon platyrrhinos. Just because they're so theatrical in the threat display. They'll like throw up, they'll play dead, they'll stick their tongue out, they'll hiss. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Everyone tune in next week on the social media page and we'll be featuring that animal. Okay, so our next question is, what is your research project for this summer?
Yeah, so I am, as I said, working with Ed Myers, and I'm looking at how geography across the Baja Peninsula in Mexico affects the genetic makeup of the Baja coach whip snake population. Previous studies are indicating that things like mountains or deserts may cause a physical barrier for them so that they become genetically isolated. And we've seen that is somewhat true so far.
Okay. So are there any like challenges that you faced with this project?
Yeah, some of the DNA sequences are not great quality because they either came from roadkill or old specimens sitting in like a pickle jar from like the San Diego Natural History Museum. So there's DNA quality issues, but there's also I do mostly field work. That's like my background. So doing a bunch of lab work and sitting still for a long time, that's a challenge for me. But also just learning how to program things is useful, but I wasn't used to it.
Yeah. Did you how many new skills have you learned so far just from like working in a lab now?
A lot. A lot of manipulating data and programs. Also just data organization. That's not very exciting, but it's important for science. So that's something I've run into before, like running my own project back at College of Charleston.
Do you think you prefer field work over all the other half of things?
I mean, it's different. Like I still love field work, but it is really rewarding seeing interpreting the data that you collected. But you know, I do like running around swamps and stuff.
Okay, so then how do you think you'll learn the skills that you've gained here? Do you think you'll apply them to like future experiences?
Yeah, definitely. So, um, my background in like field work and field ecology has helped me understand like things on the organismal level. This sort of program has helped me get a broader scope of like evolutionary patterns, and I think to do good conservation biology, you need to be able to ask and answer like questions that are fundamental to biology, like why are species in certain areas and not, and part of that is genetics.
Mm-hmm. So for your project, you're looking at two different populations of the snake, right?
Yes.
And you're like doing DNA analysis on it to figure out like the speciation of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I guess where I'm getting at is like, do you see yourself being out and like doing the collection part more so than like that? I know you said they're both like important.
Yeah.
Like what do you think you would do in the future?
That's a good question. I'd like to finish what I've started in terms of lab work. If I could help Ed, if Ed's listening, if I could help him collect coach whips in the wild, yes, I'd also love that. But as for now, there's no opportunity to do that. So I can just go. I'll try and do that on my own.
We'll try to get Ed to give you a job.
Hopefully.
So, what's the most surprising thing you've learned so far in your studies?
And the surprising thing about the organism I'm studying, or what?
It could be about the organism you're studying. It could be something related to like the lab work or like the computer stuff.
I think the most surprising thing has been that, like a lot of other snakes, the coach whip is cannibalistic.
Oh.
That doesn't really relate to the project, but you know, for those that are watching, that's interesting to me. Also, the name coach whip. This is even more interesting to me. It's thought to come from the tail, which looks like a braided whip that stagecoach drivers used to use. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Why are they cannibalistic?
Why are they cannibalistic?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't asked one. I think a lot of reptiles are like that. I mean, a lot of animals are like that. It's just, you know, if you come across extra protein, why not take it?
Well, I guess not. So that wraps up our core questions. Do we have any questions in the chat?
Oh boy, do we have questions in the chat today?
Okay, I'm ready.
First one, Julia asks, if Herps could make music playlists, which Herps playlist would you listen to?
Thank you, Julia Van Orman. Thank you so much for your question. It would have to be a frog for sure. So let's narrow that down. Probably my favorite frog, the Cope's gray tree frog, Hyla chrysochelis, I believe. It's a very handsome frog and a very beautiful call. And since they're like a very vocal organism, you know, I would trust their music taste.
Very good. All right. Next, we have another question by Julia. Do you ever go by Matt and then followed by or Thew?
Very good question, Julia Van Orman. Yes and no. I don't really go by Matt. I've never done that because that's just not my name. So I don't go by that. But Thew, yes. Actually, where I got this hat, my one of my first jobs was at the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, the South Carolina Oyster Recycling and Enhancement Program, and we did habitat restoration on salt marshes. And some of the people there would call me Theo, and they were great. So,
Very good answer.
thank you.
And then I was going to say last from Julia, but it is still not the last from Julia. Spiders or snakes?
Spiders or snakes? I've really come to appreciate spiders as well as other arthropods. And the research I was doing at College of Charleston, because it was focused on the diversity of different arthropods in wetlands. But snakes.
And then looks like a follow-up from Haley, snakes or elephant shoes?
That's okay. Well, I have I kind of want to get an elephant shrew tattoo, because they're such interesting animals. But again, snakes is something I want to study. Oh, I am studying right now, but it's something I want to continue to study. So snakes.
All right. Next, we have up once again, Julia. What is the name of the order of legless amphibians?
It depends on what organisms you're talking about. If you're talking about Sicilians, that's Gymnophalia, I believe. That's not a super diverse order. It's several hundred species typically found in the tropics, but the neotropics in the Old World. And they have a very interesting life history and a diversity of it, as well as reproductive methods. Some of the males have it's called I forgot what it's called, but a copulatory organ that's similar to mammals. There's also a lot of limb reduction in salamanders, which is the order Caudata, specifically aquatic ones, such as not cryptoprangids, sirenids have a limb reduction, amphiumids have limb reduction, etc. So thanks for trying to get me with that, but I answered it. So
Wow, you know a lot.
And
That's
then
cool.
next, what's the best thing you've caught while herping?
yeah, depends on how you count that. I helped track an eastern diamondback rattlesnake, but it had a tracker in it, hence why I said it. I tracked it. So that was pretty incredible because we got within a few yards of it and still couldn't see it. We had to scan for it for a long time, and it was just sitting there peacefully. But other than that, there's a lot of different reptiles and amphibians in my neighborhood. And so I grew up catching or finding spotted turtles as well as spotted salamanders and things like that are either threatened or have their populations reducing. So that was really interesting.
Very cool. Next question is, not a question, but a statement by Audrey. Herpetology, more like herpathology, because you fell for your friend's grandfather.
Yeah, he's a great guy. His name is Whit Gibbons. He's a professor emeritus at University of Georgia. He's written a lot of books. He's a really nice guy. Very smart. Yeah.
And this might be the same answer as Julia's last question. What's the most interesting herp you've discovered?
Most interesting. I don't know. I have a hard time picking favorites. So when I was in Panama, I caught one. It's colloquially known as like vine snake or parrot snake, depending on wherever. It is the Leptophis genus, I believe, and it's mildly venomous, and it bit me, and it kind of, but it has to chew on you to get, because I believe it's rear fanged, but it didn't really hurt. So that was interesting because I took notes on the effects that it had, which wasn't much. It was itching, really. So.
Wait, what were you doing in Panama?
I was taking an ecology class.
Wow.
In Panama at a research station, and there was lots of reptiles and amphibians there, mostly reptiles.
That's really cool. Yeah. Nice ecology class.
Yeah.
Next we have question: why is Archosauria a subclass and not a class?
Yeah, archosaurs are there's two different clades of Archosauria and Lepidosauria, and it depends on the temporal fenestra of the skull. So archosaurs are, well, if you're including the clade Archosauromorpha, which is turtles, the order Testudines, Crocodilia, and aves, or birds, that would be Archosauromorpha. Archosaura is, I believe, just crocodilians and birds. And the reason that's a subclass is just, I mean, it depends on who you ask, because a lot of systematics and taxonomy depends on what kind of evidence you like to use, and it's a big argument. As far as the Lepidosaurs, that's a different sort of group.
All right. Next, can a crocodile crack open a turtle's shell?
Yeah, definitely. So it depends on the size of the crocodilian. So crocodiles are a type of crocodilian. Makes sense, right? But if they're large enough, certainly. The American alligator as well can definitely do that. It's going to have to be a fairly large size alligator. It also depends on the size of the turtle, because something like, say, an eastern mud turtle, they don't have as thick of they're smaller, and so they're easier to crush. Whereas, something like a yellow-bellied slider get real thick. The females get quite large, and so crushing that shell would be quite hard. But it's possible, very possible.
Very cool. And then what are your thoughts on Claude as a herpetologist?
Claude I'm very happy that there's some crocodilian representation on the West Coast, because in my neighborhood, there are alligators, not albino alligators, but alligators just living in the golf course ponds and in the runoff impoundments. And sometimes they'll eat people's dogs if you get too close. That's not a joke. But nonetheless, they're a fascinating animal, and I respect them a lot, and I'm very happy with their conservation success story. So to see one that has such a rare mutation that's alive and well and admired, especially on the West Coast, is really awesome.
Very nice. So, oh man, we have a lot of questions. Let's see how lightning round we can make these.
All right.
What is your favorite fun fact not related to herpetology?
Fun fact, not Lyndon B. Johnson. He was, of course, the vice president to John F. Kennedy until 1963, until he was inaugurated on Air Force One. One of his favorite drinks was Fresco, which is a type of soda, and I love Fresco as well. So he was a idiosyncratic guy, but yeah, Fresco was one of his favorites.
Very cool. Favorite gift you received at your bar mitzvah?
For sure, yeah. My bar mitzvah was pretty wild in terms of bar mitzvahs go. Just like had so many people there, and it was really nice, really sweet. My favorite thing though was probably an outboard motor for a small boat. It was a Yamaha 4-stroke. I think it was around 25 horsepower.
Wow.
And you can't beat a Yamaha outboard these days. I mean,
Really can't.
they're second to none. And so yeah.
It's impressive.
And that was Crosby who got it for me.
All right, next, would you ever eat an iguana?
Good question, Chantel Watson. I don't really have qualms with eating reptiles and/or amphibians if it's sustainable, which, considering most of their conservation status, is not super sustainable. For the green iguana, though, they're highly invasive, so I would give it a try. It depends on how much mercury they have in them, because things like Burmese pythons that people try to promote as food can have a lot of mercury in them, which you shouldn't eat. It's not good for you.
Got it.
Yeah.
What is your favorite research method in biology?
Favorite research method? I am more of a natural history sort of guy. So instead of experimental manipulations of natural systems, I kind of like observational approaches. So instead of going in and clear cutting a patch of forest on my own, I would probably prefer to find one that has been burned by a prescribed or a natural fire or something like that. That's just more interesting to me. I can't really explain why, but yeah.
Very cool. Haley asks, who is your favorite herpetologist?
Wick Gibbons, for sure. Wick Gibbons. Yeah, I learned a lot of my knowledge from his books. He's a prolific author, super nice guy. Yeah, Wick Gibbons for sure.
All right. And then what is your favorite landscape?
My favorite landscape? Oh, come on. Ephemeral wetlands. Are you kidding me? Yeah, no. The in South Carolina, there's also, I mean, there's coastal wetlands, right? There's marshes, but those inland wetlands are incredible for and vital for amphibian reproduction, specifically salamanders, well, and frogs, but and they've been heavily modified historically for agriculture, and to find them in pristine condition is really special. And you can find lots of interesting plants there, carnivorous plants, pitcher plants, sundews, Venus flytraps. Yeah, I love them.
Very cool. Have you mastered using R this summer?
No. No, I haven't really used R, but it's important, so I should know it.
This appears to be a quiz question. What is a genus of amphisbaenids that have two front legs and can be found in Baja California?
Yeah, Amphisbaenia. That is the worm lizards. That is in the order Squamata, which is lizards and snakes. They're also like worm lizards or mole lizards. They kind of have an ossified skeleton, very pale, kind of creepy looking, but they're squamates nonetheless. What is the genus that is found in Baja California? To be honest, I couldn't tell you. Most of my familiarity with like specific species is the East Coast, specifically the Southeast.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got here. Baja California or California?
Well, haven't been around California much, and I've never been to Baja California, but considering the biodiversity hotspot that Baja California is, I'll go with Baja California.
Perfect. And we'll just finish it off with a quick little statement. Matthew, your knowledge is as limitless as your potential. And that wraps up
well, thank you.
Comment section.
Okay, well then let's hop right into the bonus questions then.
Oh gosh, okay, cool.
Our first bonus question, you kind of already talked about this, but what is the most exciting animal encounter you've had?
Yeah, I can give you another one if you'd like.
Yeah.
I was doing a population survey of turtles in Florida in one of those springs, and we had to snorkel around for them. And so it wasn't a specific experience, but it was more chasing after turtles underwater and with a snorkel, trying to grab them. And then we would mark them and record them and then release them quickly after. But that whole experience was pretty incredible. I got a cramp and kind of almost drowned, but I'm still here. So
I'm glad you made it.
Thank you. Me too.
Okay, next question. If you could conduct research anywhere in the world, where would you choose and why?
Yeah, there's I think a lot of people, I really like the tropics just because their diversity. But so I would love to go back to Central America and try to document some of the species that are around there, because some areas have really poor records for reptiles and amphibians, but also the Southeast. I mean, I really just love the Southeast in terms of the natural world, the natural parts of it. So I'm kind of just focusing on the Southeast, really. But I'm very open to anything else.
Staying close to home.
Yeah.
Okay, second to last bonus question. If you could discover a new species, what kind of organism would it be?
That's a really good question. So I mean, the obvious answer would be like a reptile or amphibian. I think what would be the coolest? Maybe a turtle, because there's not, as far as worldwide number of species, it's not that great. But still, some of them are very mysterious, not very well known, and they're threatened. They're one of the most threatened groups of animals due to overharvesting and poaching and things like that, and for the pet trade as well. So to be able to discover one and then document it and start researching it would be pretty incredible.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Would you name it after yourself?
There's different like unspoken rules. Like apparently you're not supposed to name it after yourself anymore or anyone alive. But I don't know. I feel like I would have to name it after someone. You gotta have like a little bit of fun with it.
Maybe your inspiration.
Yeah. Ed Myers or Wicked. Yeah.
Okay, and our last question. Tell us about your favorite SSI moment so far.
Other than this interview, it was probably last night, I think, because we went out to catch scorpions, and I had seen scorpions before. I'd never got my hands on one, and let alone get stung by one. So that was really interesting to get stung, to experience that, and kind of just talk with some very knowledgeable people on scorpions, which I don't know much about. So it's a really good learning experience, and I didn't get car sick, so it was a good night.
Would you do it again?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, that's our last question. Thank you, Matthew, for joining us. Before we end today, we would like to encourage you to follow us on social media platforms at CalAcademy_SSI to learn about science and natural history museums along with us this summer. Tune in next Tuesday where we will be interviewing Juliana on her research on anthropology. Thank you so much for watching.
Oh wait. Oh, sorry, I'm getting your brief.